I want to dig a little bit. I want to dig a little bit deeper into this, Venkat. You're in a very interesting position because while on one hand you are on a technology provider side, what you're really doing is you're really working with not only the technology platforms that you have, but with a number of other platforms to make it all come together. Where do you see the industry at? Where do you see sort of the pitfalls, and where do you see the opportunities?
Yeah, sure. I concur with all the other three panelists, and that they had it spot on. The way I see technology, in addition to what all the three leaders have said, is today senior living technology is very, very diverse. There are multitude of systems and solutions which solve point problems, and there are several technologies that are working very well, and some that, of course, do need work.
And so let's dig in and let's dream together for the next few minutes. Probably everybody, I know all of you have, probably everybody who's in the who's participating as part of the audience has watched the Steve Jobs rollout of the iPhone, where I mean, you all remember, you're all old enough. You probably had a flip phone that you could make phone calls on and do a few things, maybe even a little bit of internet access. And you had an iPad that, I mean, not an iPad, what am I trying to say? The music, the music thing, right? That you walk around with your iPod. That's what I'm looking for. You have an iPod, and mostly you didn't do much with the internet unless you were sitting at your desk. And then Steve Jobs comes out and he paints. They had a real product, and he painted this dream of what could be. And in many respects, we're there now, but it's still kind of a mess, right? I mean, it's not like if you're using an iPhone, it's not like everything you do is on an Apple product. A lot is, but there's a lot of other stuff, and it doesn't talk together. And so then you guys are the sponsor of this. I actually want to sort of start with sort of your dream for what could be for senior living as we look at technology. And it feels like, to me, man, I'd love to, again, maybe have your thoughts on it. It feels like we're sort of in an inflection point on this.
We absolutely are at a great inflection point for the betterment of technology adoption and use by the industry. And if you're driving towards a theme, Steve, the iPhone moment for senior living, is it now? Yes, of course. And can it be done? Absolutely, yes. I'm here, living testament for being able to do it. What we're talking about is it's more of an experience. It's not just a device or a technology. It's a wider platform that is given that can definitely improve the experience of residents, operators, executives, staff, and everyone there. Such technology, such platform is there. I'm willing to get into more detail as we talk during the webinar. And we really did dream about it, and we did accomplish it. In terms of, is it possible? Absolutely, yes. Is there advantage? Of course, yes. Is there an opportunity? Ton of it.
So, Brandy, as you're wearing your operator hat, I'd like to have you just tell me about what this iPhone for senior living looks like for you.
So for me, it would be the ability to kind of automate some of those routine functions and automate like the routine processes that will free our staff up to do what they're really here to do, right? To provide the hands-on, to be there, to be able to have the time to really have the deep know, and then to be able to automate the deep know so that the person coming in on the next shift has that same benefit as the person who got that information initially. To me, being able to enable our staff to really become family for our elders, that to me is what this looks like.
Tim, how about you? I like that a lot, right? I think that ultimately, I agree with you. I think that this idea of using technology to let humans be more human is the goal. Tim?
Yeah, Brandy, I love what you just said because it plays into one of my biggest fears. One of my biggest fears is that I have a resident that dies yesterday or last night. And this morning I walk into the building and I have no knowledge that that resident passed away. And the daughter walks into the building and I greet her with open arms and a welcome. How are you doing? And I find that her mother passed away the night before, and she looks at me and she said, "And you didn't know it?" This isn't all complicated stuff. This is, I'm thinking from terms of the simple stuff that we do that we can't bring together. We can't find a way to make it simple. And I think it is. I think we know that the information is there, but we have so many people involved in it that somehow nobody ends up with all the answers that they should have.
Yeah, so I'm gonna come to you with Michael, and I want you to put your. This is such an important thing, and I've got a follow-up question on that, but I want to get to hear from Michael first. Wearing your operator hat, what is it that you wanted to do? What is you actually talked about this? What is the what is the big picture that solves all the problems? I mean, that makes us,
It's difficult because for senior living operators, it's within a specific context. And then we also have a bunch of people that are aging out in the community as well. So I will leave the community aside for a second because there are similar tools and similar challenges, but they're a little different. So within the context of an operator that is operating senior living communities and healthcare environments, that care coordination, that's putting the resident first, and also empowering the staff to do things to make sure that that safety and compliance and everything else are taken care of, but also ensuring that the communication, to Tim's point, is happening actively, and when it needs to, and when it's very important, it happens in a timely fashion. Really, Brandy, to your point, making sure that the resident and the care there is coming first, and that the CNAs, the caregivers, can focus on care and not on the documentation, not on spending so much time in front of a two-dimensional screen that they forget that the reason they're there is for the human-to-human interface, the personal touch there that matters. And that's why we're all here. So technology has the incredible capacity to remember things we can't remember, to do things faster and more efficiently in some cases than we can as humans, and also to connect us and help with communication if it's applied the right way. So there are enormous opportunities to bring care coordination more comprehensively and cohesively together, to empower our staff to know more about the residents. So there's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of talk still about staffing issues and everything else. So with that turnover, a new staff member might not know Mrs. Smith as well as the previous staff member knew Mrs. Smith and what her interests and needs and wants were for her life. And being able to make sure that that new staff member has a way of learning about that person very quickly, very actively, so they can provide continuity of that care. So it's not fragmented even within the four walls of a community. It's very important, and it is possible now. That was supposed to be the dream originally of electronic medical or electronic health records, whereas they're really more billing systems to some degree. But that is where they're trying to go, is bringing what were effectively elements of constituent relationship management (CRM) in with medical billing and medical health records and other things. But we're still dealing with an industry that has a lot of fragments, and we still have to continue to pull those fragments together to really achieve that dream of contiguous resident care that really maximizes our knowledge of them and delivers the life that they want.
Yeah, I like this so much. One of the things that over the last year, I've seen and talked to a number of operators who are doing some really interesting things with, they've got all this data that they're collecting. And again, this is sort of right in your wheelhouse of Venkat. You got this data that's coming in. And I had an operator who was really proud of the systems they built to sort of look at this, and particularly it was a very task-oriented kind of system that they use. And they showed me they logged onto their own sort of task dashboards that they were using. And what was really fascinating about it, and I think a bit, I hope this operator is not on, or I'm going to be in big trouble. But what was really fascinating about it is when this person logged on, it turned out they had a whole bunch of undone tasks that popped up. You've got like, I think it was 8 or 12 tasks that you hadn't been done, and some, as we were looking at it, some of them were weeks old. And then I see other operators. I was at a conference where somebody dashboards that were just absolutely amazing, and I looked at it and I thought, man, that would be so good. But what about information overload? Tim, you talk about, you gave this really obvious example of, a mother or a daughter walking and a mother passing away, and those seem really, but how do you make sure that you get all the information you need and not just get information overload? I have no simple answers. Tim, you look like, I'm going to let you jump in, and then I'm going to go back to Venkat.
I mean, we keep using the term dashboard. It really is a dashboard of sorts, and managing the amount of information we're asking the dashboard to provide us. I've worked with dashboards that have gotten so complicated that you can't even work your way through the dashboard. And it's finding out a way to put the information that's needed and then move on to the next subject too. Steve, you asked, and pardon me for digressing for a second, but you asked in an earlier question when we were talking, what's working and what's not working. In my mind, it feels like so many of the systems really are working from the seat that I occupied. It wasn't that I saw a lot of problems with the systems, but it's how they speak to each other and how they speak back to us. I remember a point in time where we wanted one point of entry, and I can't get off of that bus. One point of entry. So not everybody is having to enter the same data. Well, it feels like the further I got into technology, the more and more every department was making a case that they needed something that met their needs first, and then they'd build a bridge to communicate. And it felt like we were getting further and further from that dream. Michael, I don't know if you saw this.
The nice thing is you were speaking about context. If I could sum it up in a word, there's a difference between, and also the difference between data and information or insight. And we have a lot of data. We don't have a lot of insight. This is normal before I got into senior living, I was in enterprise technology and retail and some other industries. And they figured this out a while ago. We're still learning about this. But being able to bring the right data together at the right time, the right place, to the right eyeballs is very, very important in the right context, to your point. And we're still in the early stages of this. The nice thing is the technologies exist. This is not new. We just haven't really achieved the maximum efficacy of it yet. But that is the goal, is not just have data that sits all over the place, but bringing up the right information, transforming data into information and insight at the right time, in the right place, for the right person, so that they can act on it in the right context.
Brandy, how do we avoid this overload?
So I wholeheartedly agree with Michael said. What may be pertinent and important to me is clearly not going to be the same information that's important to you. And so having the information in a flexible way so that we are seeing exactly the data points that we need to see, or the information that we need to see, so that we are able to effectively manage that and move on to the next thing. I think about the reports that are manually being done now. To your point, Tim, we get I get an updated census report every time there's a change in the building. And it's for exactly what you spoke about. It's because we don't want somebody to walk in whose mother just passed away and we didn't know about it, right? And that's important to me, but it may not be the same information that's important to my accountant or my controller, or and so it's figuring out who needs to see what and when they need to see it, and And how are we eliminating the man hours that are going into producing that data right now, right? Because we have multiple systems. You have a payroll system. You might have multiple EHRs depending on the size of your organization. Your payroll systems aren't talking to your EHR. Your ATS isn't talking to your payroll system, right? And so it's how do you build that bridge between them, and how do you make sure those bridges don't break?
Yeah. Business intelligence was supposed to fix all that.
Yeah.
But it's the context.
So Venkat, how do we fix all this?
Right. You are talking to OwlHealth, which has a solution. But anyway, let's get back to how we should fix this. I often keep whenever I get a speaking opportunity in any of the conferences, I often say quote this, which is echoing with what Michael said. The industry is data rich but insight poor. Getting insight out of the data, that requires a lot of transformation, if you will, in the technology world. That's what Michael is putting it as context. The context sensitivity of the information, which Brandy rightly said, census, whenever there is a change, how is the census getting updated, and how am I getting to know it? How am I getting to know the right information that I need to get to? The pertinent information, say, for example, when she is wearing the chief financial officer's hat, where are the costs going? Where is it coming from? How is it being paid? Is it a private pay? Where are the reimbursements coming from? All that. However, that will not deter her from providing that exclusive experience and better experience and quality of life for the residents. In that, the data and technology that should help. How are we bringing the data together? There should be this platformish approach to ensure all the data comes to one place that is a single source of truth, and therefrom the dashboards or the insights get delivered. And on top of it, today, Steve, all of our panelists and of course all of our audience will agree to the fact that today, with advancements in AI and a lot more technology, there is a ton of things that can be done in as fast as it is like batting an eyelid. Michael was alluding to it in the beginning. Technology can do those things much faster than we think it can. So Brandy was talking about in the beginning where the previous shift's nurse, she hopes and prays that the next shift nurse knows as much about Mrs. Smith. There is technology, there is artificial intelligence, there is generative AI that helps make it all happen. And we have those solutions ready as part of the big dream for senior living as a platform, as a suite of solutions, as that one-stop shop that will integrate and provide that efficiency back to all the staff, which will ensure that human touch is there. So they are there to do what they are best at, and they are there to ensure the care is provided in the most efficient manner. That's how technology should help and will help.
Yeah, I love this. I love this picture. And one of the things that occurs to me is that perhaps, particularly the leadership side of things, that part of this becomes an education and a mind shift for particularly for leaders. And so I'm going to particularly throw this at Brandy and Tim right now as a leader and a recently departed leader in a big organization, is that I think before leaders sort of felt like they needed to know everything about everything. And I don't know that that's possible. I know I have a tiny little organization with just a few employees, and I find myself going and doing things that I'm interested in and can do that somebody else can actually do better, and it's not a very good use of my time. How do we shift? Do you feel like we need a mind shift change, and how do we get there?
Of course, I've been in this business long enough to remember that we were criticized if we outsourced many of the things that we weren't experts at. If we hired an outside dining company, we were like admitting failure somehow. We needed to do it all in-house. This is a perfect example of something that we don't have all the answers to. And we really need to outsource this and bring in the right people that can help us find the answers that we're looking for.
Brandy?
I totally agree. You can't be all things to all people, right? So you need to have partners who can help supplement and shift some of that weight. But I do think education is huge. I remember, when some of the telehealth stuff first was rolling out, and we were all beta testing scales and GPS in the sneakers, like in people's homes, there was a huge resistance and lack of understanding of what that was all about and why we were trying to do that and how that was going to benefit people. So that's just with your customers, right? And then you think about your board and the education around what does this mean from a business perspective? What does this mean from a return on investment? What does this mean from a security standpoint, right? There's, you hear about all the cyber attacks and you hear about all of the HIPAA compliance issues. And so we really do need to do a better job educating all of the stakeholders as to what it is and how it can be effectively utilized and how we can take this to move ourselves forward, right? Because if we're not doing it, somebody else is going to come in and do it for us. And that's the last thing we all want.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a lack of education around all of that.
Yeah, it's a really big struggle. So Venkat, I'm going to put the ball in your court for a second. Let's say that I'm this operator. I have decided that I've got to go all in on technology. And I come to you and I say, okay, I'm going to put myself in your hands. I want you to tell me exactly, design this technology system so I get the right information to the right people. It's easy to consume. I'm not overwhelming. Tell me what you're going to create. And then the rest of us are gonna ask questions, maybe pick holes on it, or ask you to expand on that.
Absolutely. This just a upfront disclaimer. It's going to be a little longish because I'm explaining everything. So it's right from what you're trying to accomplish. The goals to be accomplished are pretty well laid out. In fact, most of our panelist leaders have already spoken about it. The resident satisfaction, efficiency for staff, improved quality of life. That is for the staff and the residents. And for the operators, the efficiency in itself will turn the needle up. So that's a very important gain. Looking at what you wanted to accomplish and what the return on the investment is going to be, we will decide the technology roadmap. However, if you come to me and ask me as an operator, I will offer the kind of the iPhone opportunity here that we are talking about. It's an end-to-end solution, a platform, an opportunity that will enhance your efficiencies, at the same time improve the quality of life for all your residents. Now ask me how. It is, let me take the example that you visited one of your friend operators, Steve, where you saw the first thing that the person logged in, it poured out a lot of tasks that were overdue, long overdue, potentially some of them. So it is your work day. How is your work day starting? For an executive, it's starting in a different manner and the focus is very different. So their KPIs, their tasks, their actions are very different. However, they all tie back into the goals, objectives, mission, vision of the organization. At the same time, if that can be percolated to everybody in the enterprise whenever they start their day, and if that is technology driven, which is what my technology can do. So it's like if you talk about, if I use one technical word, it's a window. Borrowing again Tim's dream. That single window into my day, my operations, that will enable me to provide my objectives and live by my mission for my seniors here. So it's like, all right, the moment the senior takes onto the system, the technology will help also the seniors. It removes their social isolation. It improves their engagement, thereby giving them independence and ensuring that the quality of life is better. Similarly, for the management, gives by efficiency, it's a direct, tangible return on investment. And by improved quality of life, it's resident satisfaction. Of course, that all talks about the bottom line improvements and the top line improvements. Similarly for staff, efficient and excellent collaboration. And I get to know what I do not know real quick. And I get handed over stuff without a lot of hassle. There is for example, we have this one solution, which is a Gen AI based, the shift change clinical notes. There's a lot of clinical notes that's required for having improved or better care for our seniors. I'm not just talking about a nursing home, even if it were to be an assisted living facility. So what has happened to a resident, a senior, and that needs to be understood by the person taking over service or taking over care in the next shift. There are 12-hour CNAs, there are 8-hour RNs, there are CHAs, and there are a lot of caregivers who keep changing the shifts. Everybody will know Mrs. Smith and Richard the same way that every other person knows. That's the power of technology. And that's what my platforms can enable all the staff, operators, management, and even the residents. For residents, it's the ease of use. You just have one place to go to. You're not scrambling to get into a one system, an engagement system, a dietary system, a meal order system. I have all my nutrient information in one place, but then if I have to order my meal, I'll have to go to some other app. So if anyone wants to, if an operator like you comes to me and asks me, what should be my solution? I would very strongly recommend and vouch for the efficiency that will come from a foundation. For your digital transformation, a digital foundation is a must, where you can onboard many, many things. You can onboard external applications. You can interchange information with them, exchange information with them. You can design and develop portals for people. Yeah, whichever persona you're talking about, a management, an executive, logs in, starts the day. This is that one single window that Tim is talking about. Everybody starts their day here, ends their day here, but this platform enables you to seek information, automate tasks, make decisions very, very effectively and effortlessly.
So I love this. So it occurs to me as you were talking, I was thinking about this. So I do this thing first thing in the morning when I start my day. Usually, even before I start my work day, I get my my phone out and I look at my calendar. And I see the things I've got to do, and then I start thinking about it. And so what I think I'm hearing you say, Venkat, is that this almost would replace my calendar, because it might include my calendar stuff, but it would just give me a window, your term, a window of the things that I need to know that are important for me and my organization, for me very specifically. Would that be fair?
Absolutely. It's calendar is just.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Calendar is just one of them, right? What am I going to do? What should I be knowing? It's because you are getting to an event. You are worried. You're not worried. You're kind of getting to know your calendar is very, very important for you. For a chief executive, what's happening? How am I doing? For a quality manager or a quality director, what is trending? What is the how am I for a clinical person? What are the faults there? Is there anything that I can do to ensure the reporting is better or the faults can be avoided? What clinical insights are being drawn and being provided on the go? And can I interact with the system? So the technology has evolved so much, Steve, that you can interact with the system right there. There is a real-time insight, information, and that synthesis and analysis that is happening all the time. And it can give you the consumable pieces, consumable nuggets of information and insight that you can act upon to ensure there is no drop at all in the resident satisfaction levels or engagement levels or the efficiencies of the staff.
Perfect. So, Brandy, what do you think?
I totally, when you were talking, Venkat, I was thinking about my daughter just started college this year, right? And we go to freshman orientation, and I literally have an entire screen on my phone of apps that are just for her, just for school, right? There's the meal order, there's the shuttle bus, there's the regular, and I remember thinking, they're like, why can't it just be one? And it's all housed in one place, and the information I need to get is housed right there. And I think that's crucial and critical, because if it's too hard to find, you're not going to look for it, right? So it's important. and we've been talking actually to Venkat, I will say, about looking at creating some of these dashboards for our organization, specific to what do I need to see, because what I need to see and what the administrator needs to see are different, and then how do you translate down to the CNA so that they're getting the nuggets of information that they need just for the people that they need that are on their care for that day. I think it's critical, but I'm concerned about the current infrastructures and how do we get from where we are to there, right? Because you look at senior living, you look at the fact that the majority of our buildings are old, right? They're 30 years old on average across the United States, and they have not been designed to be able to support this level of work and technology and the flow of data, and so there's a big hurdle we're going to have to cross to get there. Senior living operators have not invested the resources required to keep up with the technology just at a base level, right? So you think about all the Wi-Fi, points that you have to put in the building and all the cabling. I'm thinking about we're talking about doing a renovation, and we just did fireproofing in the ceiling, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we have to run new wires up there, and what's that going to do to my fireproofing? But those are the things that we as operators are thinking about and need to consider. And so we need to find a way to be able to do this as efficiently in one foul swoop, honestly, because you're not going to have the resources necessarily to continue to revamp systems like that.
Yeah. So I want to go. We're going to run out of time here before we run out of stuff to talk about. So I want to go to Tim next. The one thing Venkat, I really want to get to, and there was a question that came in a while ago that I've got two questions, and we're going to be in trouble here time-wise, but we're going to get through this. The question that came in earlier is where the low-hanging fruit, where we get started. I want to get to that, but Tim, I want to first hear from you, and Michael, just briefly from you for this window into everything.
Where's the low-hanging fruit?
No, I want to get to the window into everything. Your reactions to that, the window that Venkat described.
Single window.
A single window.
I love it. I can't disagree with it.
Okay.
I go back to Michael. Michael said the information's there.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's there in different pieces and parts, and it's scattered all over. So, Brandy, to your point, I have to call out a little bit of caveat emptor here and say normally it's almost impossible. And I am a perpetually strong optimist about most things to go straight from A to Z here, because what that implies is full integration across multiple disparate systems, some of which have been hanging around since the 1980s or 1990s, that were not built for integration and not built for data transfer into their systems. So along with those old cables, you have old databases and old systems in a lot of cases that you need to pull insights and information out of. Yes, there is absolutely a way to do this. Enterprise technology and other industries have done this years ago. ERP solutions, suites of solutions that incorporate lots of different functions and use a single database to feed all of that and bring together the insights and the data into insights. It is possible, but there's a road to travel between A and B. And if we minimize that, we oversimplify a very challenging process that is not realistic. So we have to be very careful as a 10-year, 20-year CIO and 10 years in this industry. There's a process to get there. You can wrap, even with disparate systems, there's steps forward, and you can achieve early wins with, that's why I brought up the term business intelligence solutions, which is really just a reporting solution that looks from different solutions, brings the data together in usually what's called a data warehouse, and then is able to provide things like dashboards. You can do that earlier than integrating the whole backend or whole set of backend solutions that you have. But there's a journey to be followed here that is not simple, and there's cost and risk associated with that too. So just be careful of how you're approaching this. I would suggest you can find early value in that single pane by doing some reporting, but then to make it better, to make it faster, to make it easier, to make it more integrated, it is a longer journey that you'll have to take.
So
grab the mic. I'm going to grab the mic back.
You bet. Go ahead. Go for it.
Or Michael, you point out the obstacles, but I think oftentimes those obstacles become bigger than life. And
True.
many organizations make decisions not to move forward because of the obstacles that they see in their way.
You're right.
So I think we as C-suite individuals especially have to make a concerted effort to say, this is core to what we do.
Yes.
Going back to my comment about having IT, and I use the director, but vice president or whatever the title is, sitting at that table, sitting as a part of the executive team. And I used to look around the table, and every person around that table was looking at technology solutions to their problems. And we didn't have anybody representing technology sitting at the table to help them solve it.
To bring the conversation together.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's what
I'm a big believer in that.
And it's also getting the board to recognize that this is the major pillar of the organization's strategic future. And
I want to get a couple questions here, because I think they're really important. So the first question is this: where are the quickest opportunities for improvement? So what are the low-hanging fruit? And particularly, the question is asked in the context of prevention and quality of life versus just treatment. So it's really, the question is where and this is a really important question to ask, right? Because if I can come in, if Venkat, you can come into an organization and you can actually create something that makes life for residents and team members better, it becomes easier, at least theoretically, to take the next step. So what are those low-hanging fruits? Venkat?
Sure. I was going at the same question in the same terms, Steve. I would say the quality of life improvement. And again, it's all based on the insights that we get. There is insight provided for, there can be insight provided for everything. As Mike was alluding to, it is a journey. And my advice for everyone would be start small and scale. So that's when the platform or the single suite of solutions, that's where it helps. You build the foundation in such a way that you can improve it and future-proof it anytime. When you start small, you will get that low-hanging fruits, which will come with the insight that the consulting organization can immediately provide. So when I take a look at an assessment at the entire landscape, I will absolutely come across and come out with a list of opportunities that will immediately impact positively the quality of life or the prevention of rehospitalization, falls, what have you there. And there are, see, the healthcare curation or healthcare treatment is by far required, but I would not want to get there if I can avoid that. So I would not want to get to a treatment situation if I can have a position where I don't even have to get to a treatment situation, either to a nursing facility or an acute care facility. That's how I look at it. And the insights will absolutely provide the lowest hanging fruits for everyone to address. The business intelligence, the insights, that platformish approach and the foundation-based approach for the transformation is what's required.
The other, I think clearly that is the right answer. One of the questions that came in through question and answer I really like, and I think this is a really critical question, is how do you act? What about data input? How do you actually make sure the right amount of data gets in? And particularly when you think about caregivers, right? So as you guys all know, we announced a AI summit that we're doing. There'll be a teaching summit in January. And as I've been talking to people about AI and the possibility, I sort of think, and maybe this happens now, but I have this vision of every caregiver carrying some sort of a little device on their shirt or their blouse or their vest, where as they're doing cares, they're just talking, they're having conversations with residents and talking what they're doing. And then you've got this AI system that pulls out the relevant stuff puts it into the medical record? Because I think one of the big challenges is that nobody likes charting, right? It's a pain, and you figure out how to say the same words over again for every resident because you're trying to get through it because you've got more important things to do. So how do you do this data input?
Yeah, absolutely. But what you said, Steve, is it existing? It is. It is just one of the AI avatars, if you will, in Gen AI, where you can actually get the clinical notes scribed. The scribe is a solution. That's one of the components of the platform and the foundation that I spoke about. And when it comes to insights part of it, or the dashboards or the business intelligence as to what happened, how it happened, why did it happen, what's going to happen. That is the journey of your insights, where you get the analytics and progressively you go towards predictive analytics. You will be able to see what is going to happen just by leveraging the power of your own data. You are sitting as an operator, you're sitting on a ton of data with 30 years, 50 years, 100 plus years. One of our customers is 100 plus years into this industry. They've been serving New Jersey seniors for more than 110 years now. So there is such a vast amount of data that the models, the artificial intelligence can learn. And the systems also, all of them carry the data. So it's not required for a redundant input of data, if you will, if the question was from that context. There are systems, there is technology, which is part of our platform approach and our foundation, which can pull data from multiple systems. There are pipes. It's more like plumbing at your home. You can draw a pipe, you can design a pipe into any system that can get the data that you require. Only that information that you want to ensure that you give accurate data. So that, again, the additional advantage, your platform, or the technical word that Michael used, the data warehouse or the lake house, that becomes your single source of truth. Is it operational or is it warehousing? All that is a different technical consideration, but it becomes your single source of truth.
So from an operator standpoint, so again, sort of I want to go to Brandy, Tim, and Michael wearing your hat. One of the big questions is that, technology has got this great promise to make things better, but mostly what ends up happening is every time a new piece of technology comes in, it becomes an additional burden on staff. It's new tools to learn, new tools to input, new things to get wrong. And then from a C-suite standpoint, the other challenge you face is it costs money. And so how do you manage all of that in a way that ultimately benefits, coming back to this experience, right? How do you create great experiences with all of that? Randy, you go first.
So, I think, what we have done is we have a few technology staff champions, people who just get it, right? And so if we're going to roll something out that's new, those are the people we're going to roll it out to first. And once they are jazzed about it and excited about it and see the benefit of it and learn from it, then the other staff are more likely to adopt that and more likely to understand what the value is of it. But I think that's the most important part, right? You need to have your champions that are going to help you move that agenda forward.
Yep, absolutely. Tim?
You have to find a way to be able to bring on the staff to do the training. It's all great to have somebody who is a champion, but that champion sometimes moves on to another job as well. And you can't miss the beats when they're gone, and now you don't have somebody to take on that role. Yeah. So I think I'm going to circle back. It comes back to a CEO recognizing, along with the board, that they have to find ways to fund what is necessary. And that includes not only the systems, it also includes the people and the training. Some of the organizations within Leading Age, for instance, are very, very, they're very advanced in comparison to some of the others. We have some mom and pop operations there that just make by with the bare essentials, and others are very, very well endowed. Michael, you mentioned an organization that you work for that is quite financially quite secure. You can do things that other people can't necessarily do, but it comes back down to the board. and the CEO making a decision that they need to invest the dollars to make what has to happen happen.
I agree wholeheartedly, Tim. And I just wanted to say that it's getting easier to articulate the value of technology. And I want to be clear. I actually, as a 30-year technologist, I'm a big believer in technology, which should be no surprise to you. The reason it sounded like I was saying no is less a no and more cautionary tale. So the nice thing is, what I was going to say is I do believe, and that's why I started out saying we were in an inflection point where it's easier and more specifically possible to articulate value, not just from efficiency, but there's actually revenue opportunities, which up until recently, everybody thought of technology as something to just make things more efficient. There are new, resident-facing opportunities that can be articulated in business terms as well. So it's easier to communicate with the board and the non-technical staff. That's part of my job as a CIO. I'm not a CIO currently, but I have been for most of my life. And that is the role, is articulating the value there and being able to communicate the why, not just the what and the how, but the why we are doing this in business terms, in financial terms, so that it becomes an investment decision. And that investment decision is now easier to make because we can more clearly articulate this is what is going to come as a result of it. And it's not just a hypothetical. We can give specific backing data to prove that too. So it's becoming easier to make that dream a reality.
So we are about out of time. One thing that we've just barely brushed over, I want to talk a little bit about. Venkat, you talked a bit about this, and I'd like you to articulate them a little bit more. And that's the use of generative AI to be able to really make all this really come together and help you understand stuff. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. At this point, let me also give a very brief glimpse into some of our platform components that we provide as technology solution. We talked about the Gen AI consolidating the information or giving that information and passing it on as a summary. For example, there is a clinical note that is made by a nurse that's going out of a shift, but that resident requires an immediate care or probably just over the shift over time, there may be a medication that's required. How is it made important to the next shift? Because the urgent situation cannot wait for the nurse to come in, settle down, look at all the notes, take a paper out and look at all my favorite residents, go say hi to everyone, and then come back, attend this emergency. Well, it's not necessarily an emergency, but it has to be done right then. So such things can be popped up, as you spoke to, in the in my work day. So it's an entire digital transformation that we're talking about, where digital and technology will help having its hooks into the data and information and giving it back to the operators, residents, and even the staff. That's one part of it. So the real question that you asked about is the Gen AI. So staff collaboration. I'm giving you very simple and very relatable use cases or needs that we met by Gen AI, Steve. How do I know more? If I am attending a resident with, say, I'm in a memory care setting, and there is a situation that I have to handle which I have never come across. In the olden days, what I used to do is I'll call for help, I'll go run, but then I can't even miss caring for the resident here. So I'm start between between my original duty and the need to gain this information. Today, however, I have that in my hand. The collaboration is right there. I ask the system, I interact with my handheld device. It doesn't have to be a specific system or a technology or a solution. I just interact with my phone or my handheld device and say, hey, what do I do? Then there are several other situations that have happened maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, or even last night that can give me that collaboration happens even in absentia of the person who has done it. That's Gen AI and AI for you. And it's like, even if it is a policy documentation, or if it is a clinical note consolidation, or if it is asking a summary of insights that is being provided to an executive. The chief executive may not have time and a lot of effort may need to go into a dashboard to understand really. Then he or she can interact with the system and say, hey, give me the summary of this insight. How am I trending? Because this is a quarter, and how am I trending on my star rating? What are all the causes for a downfall or an uptick? Then the system can go into the dashboards and the business intelligence suite that I have already built. And again, I'm talking about all these things which are built, which are ready. And I'll be very glad to demo it to or talk in further detail to anyone who's attending booth who will be listening to it later. So it's all available as a solution to the senior living industry on the information model that we have built, which is readily available. So it's like, well, I'll go, my AI tool will go into the dashboards that are already taking care of this information, synthesize that, identify the root causes, and give out that capsule of information for consumption by the chief executive. It's the same for any role, any persona that comes into the system.
This has been an amazing conversation. It'd be really fun in 10 years to be able to go back and get 10 years down the road, come back and look at this and figure out what we got right and what's different. I was going to ask you a last question, but we're out of time. I know a lot of people have an appointment at the top of the hour. Venkat, thank you for sponsoring this. What you're doing is industry changing. I really appreciate that. Brandy, so inspiring about what you're doing, and I think it's particularly interesting when you're in an older building like that, where you're moving things forward and turning it into a modern building. Tim, you've been doing this for a little while, and you are as progressive as everything. Michael, you're a good friend and a good mentor and supporter in all that you're doing, and you have this great vision. I just thank you very much. Thank you, each of you who attended. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.